Have you ever stopped to think about, well, how you think? We all just assume that what's going on in our head is pretty much the same as what's going on in everyone else's. But what if it's not? What if your inner world looks completely different?
Okay, let's try a little experiment right now. I want you to just try to picture an apple. You can close your eyes if it helps. So, what do you see? Is it a super crisp, shiny red apple? Maybe a little green leaf still attached? Can you almost see the light glinting off its skin? Or is there nothing? Just the idea of an apple?
You know, the reason I'm asking is because mental imagery isn't an on or off switch. It's a huge spectrum. On one end, you've got people who can conjure up these incredibly vivid, almost photorealistic pictures in their head. And then on the other end, you've got people who see, well, nothing, just blackness. But they still know what an apple is. They get the concept. It's round, it's crunchy, it might be red or green, all without seeing a single image.
And that second experience, that total lack of a visual in your mind, that's what we're diving into today. It just begs the question, right? What does it actually mean to think without any pictures at all?
Well, there's a name for it, aphantasia. It's the inability to voluntarily create mental images. So for people with aphantasia, their mind's eye is essentially blind. Think about it. The old trick of counting sheep to fall asleep, that just wouldn't work because there are literally no sheep to count.
Now, for the longest time, aphantasia was just seen as a weird quirk, you know? Maybe even a kind of deficit. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if not having a mind's eye is actually a cognitive advantage?
And this is where things get really fascinating. There's this compelling theory that in certain situations, thinking without pictures isn't a weakness at all. In fact, it might be a hidden strength, especially when it comes to objective, critical thinking.
The theory goes that people with aphantasia might be, and I quote, less susceptible to visual bias or manipulation. Just let that sink in for a second. How many times are we swayed by a really powerful image we see? Or even just one we cook up in our own heads? It happens all the time.
So this is the heart of it. By not generating those mental images, which can carry a lot of emotional baggage, the mind might actually be freer to just analyze the facts, plain and simple. It's this incredible idea, achieving a kind of clarity through a lack of vision.
Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of how someone could escape this type of visual bias.
First, we got to be clear on what we mean by critical thinking here. It's more than just being smart. It's a specific process. It's about scrutinizing and skeletonizing information. I just love that word, skeletonizing. It's this idea of stripping away all the fluff, all the emotion, to get down to the bare bones of the facts, instead of just going with what feels right.
And you can see that process broken down right here. First, you scrutinize the information. You look at it really closely. Then comes that crucial step. You skeletonize it. You get rid of all the emotional packaging to find the raw data inside. And finally, you deconstruct the situation, just analyzing the bare facts for what they are.
And here's where it all comes together. On the one hand, if you're someone with really vivid mental imagery, that picture in your head can trigger a powerful emotional effect. It makes a certain decision just feel right, even if it's not the most logical one. But for someone with aphantasia, that emotional trigger from the image just isn't there. And that could clear the way for a much more direct, objective look at the facts.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, it kind of forces us to rethink what a good thinker even looks like. It suggests that there isn't just one single way to think critically, and our own internal wiring plays a massive role in how we do it. So let's just recap real quick. We've seen that mental imagery is a huge spectrum, and for people with vivid imagery, that can sometimes create an emotional effect that biases them towards what just feels right. Which brings us to the main idea, that aphantasia, the lack of those images, might actually help people objectively skeletonize the facts and see things with more clarity.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to ask ourselves, no matter where we fall on that spectrum. Take a second and think about your own mind's eye. Is your imagination a tool that's helping you see the world more clearly, or could it sometimes be clouding your judgment? It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? Thanks for tuning in.